Hi everybody. Today we're going to start talking about the actual biochemical processes of photosynthesis. But before we do that, we got to get a sense of location, right? So if you can think of a plant leaf, right? That leaf is made up of billions of teeny tiny plant cells, right? So you zoom in a leaf and you see cells, right? Well, one part of that cell is these little green discs called chloroplasts, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the chloroplasts because that's where photosynthesis happens. And if you cut open these teeny tiny chloroplasts, right, what you'll see is that there's even smaller structures inside, right? You'll see these little stacks of green membranes that are stacked up like a pile of green pancakes or coins or something like that, right? Those are called the thylakoids. And it's the thylakoids that actually contain the chlorophyll pigment. And then, while inside the chloroplast, but outside of the thylakoids, you have this empty space, and that empty space is called the stroma. Right? The reason why I bring up the thylakoid and the stroma, which are both inside the chloroplast, is because different steps of the photosynthesis chemical reactions take place in these areas of the chloroplast. So, if we actually look at the process of photosynthesis, it can be broken down into two main steps. On the left side of this diagram, we have what they call the light-dependent reactions. That's just too many syllables for me to say over and over again, so I simply call it the light reaction. Right? But we see everything that goes on in the light reaction on the left side of the diagram. On the right side of the diagram, we have the light-independent reactions. Again, too much of a mouthful to say over and over again, so I simply call everything that happens on this side as the dark reactions. So today I want to focus on the light reactions, the left side of this diagram. We see that the light reaction takes place inside of the thylakoids, which are inside of the chloroplast, right? These stacks of these green discs that we see right here. And the whole purpose is to take this light energy and convert it into a form of chemical energy. And the chemical energy that we're making is ATP and NADPH. However, before we go on, I want to make sure that we all understand the importance of these two molecules, ATP and NADPH. Let's start with ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Right? And it's the molecule that actually provides energy directly to your cell. It's the fuel that your cells run off of. However, you can't make ATP out of just sunlight, right? ATP is created from a molecule called ADP. ADP stands for adenosine diphosphate. Right? See, diphosphate has two phosphate groups attached to this molecule. However, this is like a dead battery. In order to recharge this dead battery, you need sunlight, and that sunlight provides the energy to add a third phosphate group to ADP to make ATP. And that ATP is your fully charged battery, and it's ready to go off and do some work, okay? Now, just like a dead battery, like in your phone, when your battery runs out, you don't simply throw it away, right? So this ATP molecule, when it gets used to do whatever work the plant needs done or whatever work the cell needs done, right, it gets converted back to ADP, and that ADP gets recharged just like the battery that's in your phone. The plant just uses sunlight to recharge it, not electricity. Right? Now, we can't ignore this other form of chemical energy, this NADPH, which is very, very similar to ATP. It's another high energy molecule. Okay. However, in order to create NADPH, we need a molecule called NADP+. Right? Instead of adding phosphates to NADP+ to recharge it, we add a couple of electrons. Right? So by adding 2 electrons, and again, light provides the energy that we need to add those electrons, we create NADPH, which is the charged form of this molecule. Once we use the energy, it gets converted back to NADP+, which is the dead battery form of that molecule. So let's talk a little bit about the process. Right? So as light energy is being absorbed by the chlorophyll, right? That energy is used to blast apart a water molecule. So in addition to light going into the light reaction, we also see water going into the light reaction. And that water gets blasted apart, right? The hydrogen, remember, water's an H2O molecule, so the hydrogens are used to help make that ATP, right? The electrons from that water molecule are used to help create NADP+. Okay? There's one part of that water molecule we have left that the plant doesn't need at all, and that's the oxygen. And the oxygen is just released through the stomata, which is a small opening on the underside of that leaf, and that oxygen then escapes into the atmosphere, and that's the very, very same oxygen that we breathe in and that we rely on for our own survival. Alright guys, that's it for today's lesson on the light reaction. Tomorrow we'll talk about the other side, which is the dark reaction. Thanks. Bye.